My wife had a doctor's appointment yesterday, and as we arrived at the doctor's office, it's one of those big offices where they have multiple doctors in it, and the parking lot was medium sized. When we got there, there was about 30 cars already parked there. And as we were pulling into a parking spot, we noticed a older gentleman. He was around the 75 maybe. He was wandering around and he looked a little confused and lost. And you know what came across our mind right away? Probably the same thing that's coming across your mind as you're hearing this, and that is, he couldn't find his car. And so, as we got out of our vehicle and we approached him, my wife stopped and asked him if he needed any help. And indeed, he said that he couldn't find his car. And that got me to thinking, in retirement, as we get older, at what point do they take our keys away from us? And that's the topic of today's video. And you want to stick around and listen to the whole video because throughout the video, I'm going to be talking about this story about this gentleman that couldn't find his car in the parking lot. And that's pretty interesting. And you want to know how that kind of turned out. But when I got to the doctor's office, we were in the waiting room. I started to think back about my dad. My dad when he was about 75 and I was 40 at the time. I would go over there and take him to the grocery store to buy his groceries. And there was a time when he drove, and I just noticed one time when he was driving, when his driving skills, he was really erratic, and he drove real fast, a little bit too fast for my taste. So I had a major concern about that, and so I had to talk to my siblings about maybe the need to take away those keys from us and find an alternative to what he can do or needed to do when he needed to get out. But then I started thinking about conversations that I was having with my wife. Right? She would have the same thoughts and the same concerns about my driving skills, and I was only 65. It might be a problem. So I have to admit that there's been times when, whether I was driving to work or coming home, that I couldn't remember a portion of the trip. Has that ever happened to you? And if it has, let me know about it in the comments. Let's talk about it. Um, but yeah, I would sit there and I would think, I don't remember coming to that light and how I got home. It was just like a total blank. And that was always a concern. But there's a lot of memes out there that talk about having a nagging spouse as a co-pilot. My wife would always tell me, you're going too fast, you're going too slow. Watch out, don't hit the curb. There's a car coming, slow down. There's kids, you name it. But I thank God for her and her co-pilot abilities because it has helped me avoid probably several, if not more, major collisions. Right. So I thank God for her. Now back to my friend, that gentleman in the parking lot. So we did approach him, right? And as my wife was wandering around the parking lot, trying to find the car, the make and description of that car he gave us, I stayed back and I kind of talked to him and I asked him, if he had his keys, because he could just, hit the alarm, and if he hits the alarm, the car is going to make a sound, right? And then that's how you know where your car's at, because that's kind of what I did every time, I'd go into a Walmart or a Kroger's or a Albertsons, and I'll come out and I was like, where did I park my car? I'll just hit the alarm and it would go off. And I go, oh, there you go. If that has ever happened to you, all right, let me know about it in the comments. Um, Now, taking keys away from somebody, taking the keys away from an elderly person, that's a difficult decision to make, as well as sometimes it's necessary for the safety of not only that person, like my dad, but it's also necessary for everybody else that's on the road with them, because the worst thing that can happen is my dad run into somebody and either hurt or maybe even kill somebody, or that might be something that I can do, and so let's talk about some issues or some things to think about when you start thinking about taking the car keys, or reasons why you want to take the car keys away from somebody. So the first one that comes to my mind is when somebody has a physical impairment, such as it could be hearing. So if you can't hear an ambulance behind you or a police car, or you can't hear somebody honk their horn, right, to warn you about something, or maybe it's seeing, right? If you have a problem seeing a stop sign, or seeing the traffic lights, the red, green, yellow. If you have problems seeing those, or like a lot of us as we get old, our ability to see at night kind of goes away, right? There are a lot of times where it's hard for me to determine where that car is that I see coming towards me. And then there's memory issues. Not only like this gentleman who couldn't find his car, but have you ever got in the car and you began to drive and you were going somewhere, and instead of going to that somewhere, that place, you just started driving to work, right? Why? Why is that? What's that all about? Well, that's memory driving, right? So it's already stuck in your mind. You do it 5 days a week. You get in your car and you just start driving to work. Now, I have done that before, and if you have, let me know about it in the comments. But I'll start driving to work and then notice where I was going, or my wife would say, "Where are you going?" And I'll have to turn around and start heading back to where I needed to go. So sometimes that's a little concern, right? It's not staying focused. And then there's times where somebody might not only not know where they're going, but not know how to get back home. So if you get to the point of where you can't remember where you live or how to get back to where you live, that is definitely a problem that you need to do something about. And then there's judgment problems, right? So if you have judgment concerns, and so one of the things that I always have a problem with nowadays is, when I make a right turn, I always run across the curb for some reason. We drive a full-size truck, and I always hit that. And my wife will always say, "You're going to hit the curb," and sure enough, I hit the curb, right? That's just a judgment concern, or it might be your following distance between you and the car in front of you. We know we need X amount of feet to be able to step on the brake and stop if they put their brakes on. And so sometimes that judgment might be impaired to where we can't react fast enough, and we end up hitting somebody in the back. Then there's attention deficit, right? So if you can't stay focused on your driving, and there's times where I'll be driving and the wife will say, "Hey, look at that on the left," and so I'll look on the left, and then she'll say, "Hey, focus on where you're driving." And I'll say, "Well, you just told me to look on the left." And you know how that works out, right? I'm wrong, and so when you have attention deficit, that could be a problem. Some of the things that the other things with attention is, sometimes I'll drive and I'll be so intense that I'll fall into this zone of driving to where I won't be able to hear anything else, and I'm just looking straight ahead. Um, and then my wife would have to bring me back to reality, right? Just say, hey. She might even have to tap me. At least she says it was a tap. I thought it was a hit, right? And so that will bring me back and make me realize what I was doing. But that's always a major concern, right? Try to stay focused on what you're doing. And then there's medical conditions, right? Any medical condition that might alter your motor skills, right? Or medicines that you take. If you take certain medication, it might say, it causes drowsiness, don't drive, or medicines that might make you even jittery, right? That you'll have to consider, especially if you're taking it not just for a one time, maybe it's for a longer period, maybe it's for the rest of your life, that might cause some harmful problems when it comes to your driving ability. So taking the keys away from somebody, it's always a sensitive topic, and it should be handled with empathy and with understanding. It's important to have just open and honest discussions with that person. Um, those conversations, right? You have to realize that people again don't want their independence taken away from them, and a lot of people when they want to go somewhere, they want to go somewhere, and they don't want to have to wait on anything else, because when that happens, that takes away a lot of their independence. But there are a lot of other modes. There are a lot of other options to think about, right? There's always or local transportation, bus transportation, right? The local bus that can take you to wherever you need to go. Or my favorite is Uber, right? Want to go somewhere, call up Uber. And in retirement, as we go older, the one place we go a lot is the doctor's office. And so my Medicare Advantage plan, it offers 24 free one-way trips to the doctor. How about that? That's a value, right? That helps me save a lot of money and a lot of frustration just trying to get to the doctor's office. Um, so back to that gentleman that we were talking about who couldn't find his car. Well, we did search for his car. We told the guy that um, we had to go to our doctor's appointment, and when we come out, if he was still there, that we would be more than willing to give him a ride home or a ride wherever he needed to go. But as we got to the doctor's office, we kind of felt concerned for him. So my wife ended up calling 911, and we asked a patrol officer they would come out and visit with them and just talk and see if they could help him out. Uh, but as we were leaving, we saw him down in the lounge area, sitting down, talking on his phone. He was smiling and laughing away. So the hope is that either a police officer did come by and help him out somehow, and or he was able to reach his wife, or even another family member or a friend that could bring him a spare key and kind of help him out. So hopefully that ended very well. We know that he is okay, and there's, you know, uh, yeah, he's not in any harm at this point. But then I go back to think about myself, right? Um, at what point are they going to decide that somebody wants to take away my keys? That's okay because I got a plan. When they want to take away my keys, I won't argue. Not a problem. I got a plan. My wife, she's 9 years younger than me, so guess what? She can drive me around, and I could be her co-pilot. How about that? And this is Chandler's retirement life. Say it's a good life, especially when you have your wife driving you. Lights out.